Greetings, Thrillseekers. I am the Master Programmer. This week, we tune into signals from beyond, broadcasts that reach across time and space. First, in Echoes of Station 104.6, an abandoned radio station in the Nevada desert begins transmitting again after decades of silence. Then, in the signal that listened back, a Cold War military base intercepts a transmission, one that repeats their own voices. At first, it simply echoes, then it starts predicting, and when it begins calling soldiers' names, it's already too late. These stories are not for the faint of heart, so sit back, turn down the lights, and listen to the eerie tales Rasputin has uncovered. And if you enjoy our content, please subscribe to our channel for more chilling stories and dark discoveries. Welcome to another journey into the unknown, brought to you by the Dark Files. For nearly 3 decades, Station 104.6 was nothing more than an abandoned relic in the Nevada desert. It'd been a small, local broadcast station, one of those independent AM frequencies that played old country songs and morning news before the funding dried up in the late 70s. The building itself was forgotten, buried in the shifting sands, its radio tower standing like a rusted skeleton, until the station started broadcasting again. At first, only a handful of amateur radio operators picked it up. Faint voices and barely audible transmissions at 3:13 a.m. The signal was weak, fragmented, just broken sentences, then silence. A glitch, they assumed. A frequency bounce from somewhere else. But the next night, more people heard it, and the words became clearer.
Please, can anyone hear me?
One of the first people to document it was Leonard Calloway, a retired radio technician from Carson City. He spent years collecting odd signals. He recognized the station's call sign immediately. WXBR 104.6. The same station that had been shut down in 1978. Leonard recorded the broadcast. The voice was distant, layered with static, but unmistakably human. A man, breathing heavily, his words trembling.
They're coming. They took Lisa. I don't have much time.
Then, silence. Leonard scoured old records, digging through FCC archives and newspaper clippings. The name Lisa wasn't much to go on, but he found something else. In October of 1978, 2 employees had disappeared from WXBR 104.6. Elisa Carter and Andrew Reese. Their bodies were never found. The official report stated that a fire had gutted the building, but the details were vague. It was the kind of case that never made the front page. The next night, the broadcast returned. This time, dozens of listeners caught it. The voice was more desperate, more urgent.
Please, if someone can hear me. Lisa is gone. They're in the station. I can hear them outside the door.
Leonard called the police. They didn't care. To them, it was just some pirate radio signal. A hoax. A prank. But Leonard knew better. He drove out to the desert. It took him nearly 2 hours to find the remains of WXBR 104.6. The building was barely standing, but the tower was intact. The signal was coming from inside. Leonard stepped through the crumbling doorway his flashlight sweeping over the old equipment now covered in dust. At the back of the station, he found it. A single radio unit, still powered on. That was impossible. The equipment was ancient. There was no electricity, no generators. Yet, the dials flickered, and a faint, rhythmic pulse crackled from the speakers. Leonard reached out, hesitated, then turned the volume up. The signal came through immediately.
Leonard.
His heart stopped. The voice knew his name. The radio hissed again.
Leonard, they're outside. Please help me.
He turned, swinging his flashlight towards the doorway. Empty. The desert wind howled through the broken windows, but he saw no movement. Nothing. Then, the voice on the radio changed. The fear was gone. The words stretched, distorted, as if something else had taken over.
You shouldn't have come here.
Leonard scrambled for the dial, twisting frantically, but the voice didn't stop.
We've been waiting.
A sharp static burst filled the room, so loud it rattled the walls. The temperature dropped. Leonard felt something behind him. Something cold. He ran. Leonard never spoke about what happened that night, but he wasn't the only one to hear the final transmission. Over the next week, more people reported the station's broadcast, except now, the voice wasn't pleading for help. It was calling out names. Names of people who had recently gone missing. And on the 7th night, it spoke Leonard's name. The next morning, Leonard Calloway was gone. His house was untouched, no signs of forced entry. Only his radio was left on, tuned in to 104.6, broadcasting nothing but static. It started with a whisper. In March of 1973, an isolated military listening outpost in Greenland picked up an unidentified transmission on an unregistered frequency, 301.1. At first, the signal was nothing but static buried in the hum of the cosmic noise. But then, something spoke.
Listening.
The voice was flat, hollow, the kind of tone that didn't belong to a person, but something that knew how to sound human. Sergeant David Holloway was the first to notice something was wrong. He had been assigned to the station for only 2 months, monitoring Soviet transmissions during the peak of the Cold War. He was used to coded messages and the occasional cryptic warning. But this wasn't Russian. The frequency didn't exist in any known registry. No country had any record of transmitting it. It came from nowhere. And worse, it was responding to them. At first, the team tried to decode it. Holloway and his superior, Lieutenant Paul Greaves, ran the signal through every decryption tool they had. But it wasn't encrypted. It wasn't a cipher. It was mimicking. The more they listened, the more it repeated their own voices. Fragments of past conversations, old radio logs from weeks before, even words they had never spoken but would soon say. One night, as Holloway sat alone in the control room, the radio clicked on by itself.
Sergeant Holloway, please respond.
His blood ran cold. He hadn't said anything. The voice on the transmission wasn't his past self or a recorded message. It was his voice, speaking in real time.
Don't answer,
the radio said.
They're listening.
Holloway slammed the receiver down. By the time the station reported the anomaly to command, things had already spiraled. The signal grew stronger each night, and it was no longer repeating words. It was changing them, distorting them. The messages sounded almost human, but just wrong. The cadence was off. The pauses were misplaced. Then, the predictions started. It began small, describing things before they happened. A knock at the door, a chair scraping against the floor. But soon, it was predicting actual events. One night, Greaves entered the control room, pale and shaking. "We just got a message," he whispered. Holloway read the transmission. "Lieutenant Greaves will go outside at 3:02 a.m. He will not return." They both checked their watches. 2:58 a.m. Greaves refused to leave the station. They locked the doors, but as the minutes ticked by, something outside changed. The wind stopped. The radio, which had been filled with static, went silent. Then, a knock at the door. 3 soft taps. Greaves stood frozen. A moment later, the radio flickered back on. The signal was stronger than ever.
Lieutenant Greaves, please respond.
His own voice from the radio. Holloway grabbed his arm. "Don't answer." He didn't. But that didn't stop the door from unlocking on its own. Greaves was never seen again. The official report claimed he abandoned his post. He walked into the Arctic tundra and succumbed to the elements. But Holloway knew better. Because the next night, when the radio switched on by itself, it spoke with Greaves' voice.
Sergeant Holloway, please respond. It's cold. I can see you.
Holloway filed for immediate transfer. His request was denied. For weeks, the transmission continued. It stopped mimicking his voice, stopped predicting small events. Now, it was only speaking in absolutes. One night, it made its final statement. Sergeant Holloway will leave the station at 4:15 a.m. He will not return. He didn't wait. He ran. He left behind his station, his post, his duty, because deep down, he understood what the radio was trying to do. It wasn't predicting. It was creating. And what if he stayed? That reality would have come true. Holloway disappeared from public records shortly after. Some believed he was silenced by the government. Others think he simply lived in fear, never touching another radio for the rest of his life. But in 1998, 25 years later, a declassified document resurfaced. It was a radio transcript, a single entry from an unknown station on an unknown frequency. It read, "Sergeant Holloway, please respond." And then, beneath it, something handwritten in the margins. Listening. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our page to stay updated. Stay vigilant. The unknown is always closer than you think.